Big news down in Tampa. Buccaneers just signed Baker Mayfield to a massive 3-year, $100 million contract with incentives that could push it up to $115 million over the lifetime of the contract. So let's dive into this contract and talk about it a little bit. So what Brad Spielberger talked about is basically it's 2 years guaranteed. The first year is entirely guaranteed, and $20 million out of the $30 million is guaranteed in year 2. So basically, how it breaks down is the first 2 years are $60 million. The third year is $90 million on top of it. You add on a little bit extra, and you go from there, right? So theoretically, it's a 2-year deal for Baker, where he's locked in with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White in the meantime, Kate Otten, moving forward with that offense. So for fantasy implications, I think it's really interesting to talk about how he is very similarly valued in startup drafts to like the Kirk Cousins of the world, and the difference in him compared to a Kirk Cousins. So let's break that down. So as you can see in startups right there, Baker Mayfield is a quarterback 19, Kirk Cousins is a quarterback 20. Now, the difference in the two is Kirk Cousins has been a higher end producer for a longer period of time. So if you need the guy for the 1 year, take Kirk Cousins. You know what you're getting, right? Even wherever he ends up, he's just a merchant king for the guys that he supports. So wherever he goes, his pass weapons thrives. Baker, this last year was actually one of his better years that he's had in a long, long time. Baker Mayfield was just the QB 10 overall last year. And if you go points per game basis, he was the QB 20, 16.17 points per game, which is the best like we've seen forever for Baker. With the team that they have set up, it should be another good year for Baker. I personally have him in this range. I would prefer the Kirk Cousins of the world just because you know you're getting higher end production. And it might be 1 year, though it is, but I'd rather pay the premium for 1 year production than Baker Mayfield. But if you do need to find a cheap starting caliber quarterback, a QB2 on a roster, I think Baker Mayfield is a great addition for teams right now. So go check out the price on him. If it's anything less than a first, you can happily pay that for Baker Mayfield. Because if you have an elite QB1 and you need a QB2, it's not a bad place to be at all. Realistically, you know what you're getting out of Baker these next couple of years. He's not the Kirk Cousins like we talked about before, but that's okay. You could still produce and be a viable QB2 in Superflex rosters, or a QB3 in case you know one of your starters goes down. You plug in Baker Mayfield, and you have a confident guy you can start who's had some pretty high-end weeks on occasion the last few years. It's just the consistency is a little lower with him. I have him currently as my QB, I think like 21 in Dynasty startups and Superflex rankings. But congrats to Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks for putting it all together, figuring it out, and setting it up, locking that down for 2 years. So pretty big news for Baker Tampa Bay moving forward in Dynasty.